Don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it. You're going to beat it. We have the best medical equipment. We have the best medicines. Don't let it dominate. Don't let it take over your lives.
The various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. And it's based on an unparalleled vaccination program that is saving lives and beating this virus. So there's no excuse for anyone being unvaccinated. This continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Well, how about patriotism? How about making sure that you're vaccinated so you do not spread the disease to anybody else? Hey folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID. But I've been double vaccinated, double boosted. Symptoms are mild, and I really appreciate your inquiries and your concerns. But I'm doing well. I'm getting a lot of work done. I'm going to continue to get it done.
We've really worked on messaging to the American people about these 15 days to stop the spread. I know it's a lot to ask because you've done it for 15 days. It's what we've been talking about in the 15 and 30 days to prevent the spread. It's everybody social distancing by 6 feet when they're outside. And that is probably absolutely the key more than anything else, is if you're never within 6 feet of any single individual, then you've controlled the virus. I don't have an evidence that it was a laboratory accident. These are zoonotic events. They come from animals into humans. And so figuring that out will be really critical, as well as figuring out, could it have happened in the lab? Right now, the general consensus is animal to human.
The various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
If you get vaccinated, you are protected, even with the Delta variant. The vaccines we have do protect well against the Delta variant. So if ever there was a reason to get vaccinated, it's right now.
Well, I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, but let's be very clear. 50% of the people who died from the Omicron surge were older, vaccinated.
Look, we knew this was going to happen. As Dr. Jha said, when he joined me at the briefing in the briefing room not too long ago, he said this is everyone was at some point everyone's going to get COVID. If you have not gotten vaccinated, please do. If you have not gotten boosted, please do. The president is fully vaccinated and twice boosted.
Because the president is fully vaccinated, double boosted, his risk of serious illness is dramatically lower. And as you all saw just a few minutes ago, the president is doing better. He slept well last night. He ate his breakfast and lunch. He actually showed me his plate.
Anywhere from 50 to 60% of the transmission occur from someone without symptoms, either someone who never will get symptoms or someone who is in the pre-symptomatic stage. Had we known that then, the insidious nature of spread in the community would have been much more of an alarm, and there would have been much, much more stringent restrictions in the sense of very, very heavy encouraging people to wear masks, physical distancing, or what have you.
In April of last year, researchers at the CDC concluded a months-long study of thousands of healthcare workers. They included first responders, nurses, physicians. The point of the study was to assess whether the COVID vaccine was working. Researchers split the healthcare workers into two groups, vaccinated and unvaccinated, and then they watched. What they found was so significant that the head of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky, went directly to MSNBC to tell the world what researchers had found. And here's what she said. This is word for word. Quote, "Our data from the CDC today suggests that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick. And that's not just in clinical trials, but also in real-world data." Now, that turned out not simply to be untrue, but in some sense to be the opposite of the truth. In some cases, the vaccinated are more likely to get variants of COVID. The death rates around the world for the vaccinated are extraordinarily high. But at the time, anyone who had doubts about what Rochelle Walensky said was told to shut up. Those who questioned her out loud were kicked off social media. If you kept questioning, you might be fired from your job. Doubting Rochelle Walensky's promises, doubting the Biden administration's claims about the COVID vaccine was totally unacceptable. It was like questioning their views on herd immunity or mandatory masking for children or airline passengers or closing the schools. Now that we know that virtually everything they said about COVID was wrong, however, no one has admitted it and no one has been punished. No one at the CDC was fired for this. In fact, they were elevated. Under Joe Biden, the people who made these claims, these false claims, have even more power than ever. Rochelle Walensky is back on television. She's demanding that parents force their children as young as 6 months old to take the COVID shot. They're all saying this. Tony Fauci, Joe Biden too. Watch.
I know many parents with very young children have been anticipating this day. Parents, I strongly encourage you to get your children vaccinated.
They do get infected and they do pass the infection. So we would hope that family members who are responsible for the children will realize that and will be enthusiastic about getting their children vaccinated.
And finally, COVID-19 vaccinations for children over 5 years of age. Finally, some peace of mind.
Amazingly, despite all of their demonstrated failures, all of their documented dishonesty, those three people are still, as of tonight, in charge of this country's response to COVID. It's remarkable if you think about it. On this channel just the other day, Tony Fauci, no less than Tony Fauci, admitted in public that actually we have no idea what effect the COVID vaccines might have on women's fertility, on their menstrual cycles. Wait a second. Remember when suggesting that could get you bounced off of Twitter and Facebook as a conspiracy theorist? Well, it turns out it's true. Here's Tony Fauci.
There's been a number of studies. New York Times just did one about menstruating cycles and how that is affected by vaccines.
Yeah, the menstrual thing is something that seems to be quite transient and temporary. That's the point. That's one of the points. We need to study it more.
Oh, we need to study it more. We need to study it more. It's just like human fertility, reproducing the species, the most important event in most people's lives.
We knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines, and it made people then worry that it's not going to protect against severe disease and hospitalization. It will, but let's be very clear. 50% of the people who died from the Omicron surge were older, vaccinated.
What? Stop the quote. I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection. Really, Deborah Birx? But somehow you forgot to mention that as people were being fired from their jobs for not taking this on the premise that if they took it, they would never be infected? When do you get criminally charged? Soon, we hope. And then there's the effect of the COVID vaccines on the elderly, the population most at risk. According to The Lancet, no less than, vaccinated people around Joe Biden's age are 80% more likely to become sick after taking the COVID shot as compared to unvaccinated people. Wait, what? 80% more likely to become sick after taking the shot that was supposed to prevent them from getting sick? How is this not the banner headline? It's being ignored. Well, as one scientist wrote in the Journal of Virology, quote, the study showed that immune function among vaccinated individuals 8 months after the administration of 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine was lower than that among the unvaccinated individuals. So it's not just that your natural antibodies were more powerful than the vaccine. We've known that for a long time, though they lied about it. Turns out the vaccine appears to depress your immune system. This has massive implications, not just for COVID. There are all kinds of horrible diseases you can get with a suppressed immune system. The Journal of Food and Chemical Toxicology found the same thing. Quote, vaccination induces a profound impairment in type 1 interferon signaling, which has diverse adverse consequences to human health. What the hell? And yet these people are on TV blithely admitting, oh, well, we should do more study on that, after we forced it on the entire American population, on billions of people globally. And this might explain how Joe Biden got COVID after getting every available shot and telling us just a year ago that vaccines conferred total immunity.
The various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
Hey, folks, guess you heard this morning I tested positive for COVID, but I've been double vaccinated, double boosted.
So one of the response to this is great sadness, of course, because even people who didn't vote for Joe Biden believed his administration when they said this, because they were acting in the name of science. People were afraid of COVID, in some cases with great justification. Some people were at risk of dying from COVID. And they reached out and accepted this drug on the promise, told to them repeatedly that it would save them. And you know, Deborah Burke says, well, I knew it didn't really work.